Lloyd Vance's Insider Football is back on 1029 The Game of Coach Sports Digital Network. So glad everybody can be with us this evening. Special Wednesday night show. Uh, Kevin is on assignment, so brought our favorite intern in, and he happens to be my son. We're trying to catch up to the Golics. I see the Golics still in Westwood One football and all that. And Nate Vance is here. How you doing tonight, Nate?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Lots to talk about around the National Football League. Of course, Nate and I and my other son Braden, we've been kicking around fantasy football because we're all in the same league. We're trying to win. We're trying to get this thing done, and it's a crazy season already, Nate. And wanted to get your take on some of the news and notes, top stories around the National Football League. Unfortunately, I got to lead with injuries. I mean, injuries, it was just crazy around the National Football League. We've lost a lot of quarterbacks that couldn't play this week, but the biggest injury is Tariq Hill. And Tariq Hill got hurt, unfortunately, on Monday night, leg twisted kind of grotesquely. Hopefully, he'll be okay, but he's 32 years old, has this dislocated kneecap. Next year, he's due $26 million, I believe, by the Dolphins. What do you think is going to happen here with Hill? Do you think he's going to have an opportunity to come back to the Dolphins? And just talk about that injury a little bit.
Yeah, that injury that he got, it was pretty gruesome. And I was looking at it, and it said that he dislocated his knee, and then he had torn ligaments in his ACL, MCL, and LCL. So I don't think he'll be able to play next year. But if he does want to continue playing after that, I don't think it'll be for the Miami Dolphins. I think he'll definitely go to a contending team like the Chiefs. Go back to Andy Reid. That's where I could see his best fit, going back to the Chiefs. But it's really a shame what happened to Tariq.
Yeah, and Nate, that was you talk about the severity of that injury. Reminds me a lot of it. There was a guy, Robert Edwards, who got hurt playing beach football. He was on the Patriots at the time at the Pro Bowl, and he got hurt similarly, and his knee just never really bounced back. We saw Nick Chubb kind of come back recently from a pretty bad knee injury, but he just does not have that same explosiveness. He is playing for the Texans after leaving the Browns. I do agree with you that Tariq probably will be looking for a new home next season if he's able to get back on the field. Of course, he's talking positively, tweeting out that he thinks he'll be ready for next training camp. I just don't see that happening. But on the downside of his career, 32, as I said, do a lot of money, and I think that the Dolphins will quietly cut him. Um, Last season, he did not have 1,000 yards, so it showed that I don't know if he was slowing down or defenses are catching up to him, but definitely he's going to have to rethink his career. So tough injury for Tariq Hill. Another one I wanted to talk to you about, Nate, is big win for the New York Giants. I mean, they were excited. They got it done. They beat the previously unbeaten Chargers. I mean, exciting times with Jackson Dart out there, but unfortunately, Malik Neighbors, non-contact injury, he tears his ACL. So just talk about the Giants and that injury.
Yeah, for the Giants, it was a big win for them. Props to them for getting their first dub of the season. I thought Jackson Dart looked really good in his first start, but losing Malik Neighbors is just catastrophic for the team. He's arguably their best player behind Dexter Lawrence, and just losing that explosive of a piece on offense is just going to be terrible for the team, and especially for your young quarterback. When your young quarterback, he's going to be looking for Malik Neighbors to rely on. You saw that early in the game before he got hurt. He had, I think, 5 targets and 3 catches. So it's just a tough blow for the New York Giants, and their star receivers can't seem to catch a break. You've seen what happened to Odell a couple years ago. He broke his ankle at MetLife against the Chargers too. That was a weird coincidence, the Chargers. But I think I think what really needs to be done is something about that turf. You see a lot of injuries on that turf more than other stadiums in general, and I think the league needs to go over and look at that turf and just analyze why all these people are getting catastrophic injuries on this turf, and then maybe upgrade it or switch to grass or something like that.
Yeah, Nate, that's a good point. And I heard that with the World Cup coming to North America next summer, that MetLife and a lot of stadiums, they're going to have to replace that turf with grass because FIFA, they don't allow games to be played on that for the World Cup. So maybe MetLife and the Giants and the Jets will kind of pitch in and they'll do that because it was a bad injury and you don't like seeing that when there's no contact. But in talking about that game, Giants now 1-3, beat the Chargers 3-1. It was 21-18. The Chargers came in as a 6.5 road favorite. So it was a big win for them. Obviously, the big story is Jackson Dart. He's Braden's new starting quarterback, so Braden's all excited about him. Numbers weren't that great, but 13 to 20, 111, had a TD. He had 54 yards rushing and a touchdown. Showed a lot of swag. So just about Jackson Dart and what he's bringing to the Giants in terms of starting now.
Yeah, I think he's just bringing an athlete to the table, something that they didn't have in Russell Wilson. You saw Russell Wilson just take a lot of unnecessary sacks, I thought, just because he was old and washed, and he just doesn't have it anymore. And Jackson Dart, he brings a youthful energy to the team. I think that he'll be able to lead this team to a lot of victories with his legs. I think Brian Daboll trusts him in running the offense. And overall, I just thought he looked good, and just that athletic presence, because the Giants don't have the best O-line in the world, but with him being able to move and stuff like that, he will be able to just extend the offense in a different way that Russ couldn't. So I thought he did a really good job. I thought Daboll did a good job calling a game around him in his first start that was safe enough to get the win. And as long as I really like Cam Scatterboo as well, their other rookie. So as long as they can run with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo, I think they'll be all right this year.
Yeah, and interesting is Scatterboo, you bring him up. I was getting ready to talk about him. 25 rushes for 79 yards. I was talking with my buddy Byron, whose son's at Arizona State. He saw him play a lot in college, and he said that Scatterboo, not a lot of wiggle, but man, he runs hard, and I think you talk about those O line deficiencies. He doesn't need a lot of room to move the pile. So. Big game coming up for the Giants. They're going down to New Orleans. New Orleans is winless. A lot of people are calling this the survivor pool special. Do you think the Giants can get a victory down there in New Orleans?
Yeah, I do think the Giants will get a big win this week. I think the Saints are the Titans and the Jets are in the running for the worst teams in the NFL. So, and I think the Giants, as bad as a team people want to call them, they do have their calling card, which is on defense. That defensive line is nasty. I think they'll be able to get after Spencer Rattler and make him look like not so much of a great quarterback. And yeah, the I saw that the Saints are 2.5 point home favorites. So if I was a betting man, I would definitely put my money on the Giants to cover that 2.5 point spread.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting at the battle, and we'll get into all the Week 5 games, but that's a early look at that one. But yeah, you have to. The Giants, what they're doing, they're trying to get something rolling here. Dayball's trying to save his job. Joe Shane trying to save his job as well. And you saw that he really was enthralled by Jackson Dart. I mean, they go head to head at one point. At the end of the game, they're looking at each other's eyes, and about we got it done. And then maybe this will spur them. I'm not sure. The NFC East, obviously, I still believe it's the Eagles division, and you have Washington getting Jaden Daniels back, so I think they're probably in number 2 spot. But maybe they can battle Dallas, and we'll talk about Dallas and their mess in a minute. Speaking of Philadelphia Eagles, here on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. Thanks for joining us. The Eagles get it done, 31-25. It was a hot day out there, 100-degree day. The Eagles came in as 3.5 point favorite. They were able to cover that, winning 31-25. Lot coming out of this game in terms of the Eagles. It was they won. They're 4-0, but they're finding ways to win with this championship DNA. But I'm starting to think, are there some cracks in their armor? And talking a big thing out of this game, AJ Brown, he is not happy. Send out a tweet saying, uh, if you're not happy, shrug and move on type of situation. He's not been getting targets this season. He only has 14 catches on 28 targets. Talk a little bit about the Eagles and this developing A.J. Brown situation for the Eagles.
Yeah, getting started with the Eagles, I think I want to start with the positives. I think their defense looks amazing again this year. I think Vic Fangio is doing a great job with all the players that he's lost last year, and they've been going up against elite teams, and they've been winning games. It's not like they've been going up against some of the better teams in the NFL. They've been going up against good teams, and they've been getting the job done on defense, playing through their defense. I think Jalen Hurts has looked good, but I think Kevin Petula, the offensive coordinator, I think he needs to open up the offense. I think that he's playing scared right now, and he plays like he has a bad quarterback, but everybody knows Jalen Hurts isn't a bad quarterback, and he can do more with the offense. So I think they need to start trusting Jalen Hurts more, and then that'll just lead into getting AJ Brown the ball more. You can't have an All Pro receiver and just not get him the ball. Like you know how that works. You know that receivers, they want the ball, they're going to be divas if they don't get the ball. So I think they just need to find more of a balance on offense, and just the fact that Jalen Hurts didn't complete a pass in the second half of that game is mind blowing, and they were still able to win, which is just a testament to how good the Eagles really are this year. So I think they still look great. I think they should still be the Super Bowl favorites right now, but I think their offense just needs a little bit of a shakeup, passing the ball more.
Yeah, that was a good win for the Eagles down there, and it was a pretty, as you said. Every game's not going to be Picasso, but the Eagles 20-1 in their last 21 games. They're showing that championship DNA that Nate was kind of talking about, and finding ways to win and moving the chains as needed. A big thing in this game was special teams again. Latu had a block punt that was a return for a touchdown by Sidney Brown. They did some invented plays off the tush push. They had a pass to Goddard off one, and then they kind of a flip out to Saquon where they kind of fooled him on that. Do you think that the tush push is here to stay? I know a lot of teams are not happy with it, but just talk a little bit about the tush push.
I think after the Chiefs game during Week 2, I don't think it's here to stay. I think it's most definitely going to get banned. I think that the way it's being officiated is not, it's not that it's not fair, but the refs aren't able to see the full play. I think people are the Eagles linemen are getting an early go, and after how much people wanted it banned last year and they couldn't get enough teams to hop on the bandwagon with them, I think this year they'll get more than enough teams. And I know there's still a couple coaches that think it's like Sean Payton was talking about it. I think it was yesterday or the day before, about how it's a good play and people need to stop whining about it, because if you can't stop it, then you can't stop it. But I think there's just enough coaches and enough owners that are tired of seeing it, that are playing against the Eagles, that to the point where it's going to get banned.
Yeah, and I agree with Nate. I think eventually that next off season they're going to probably step away from it. But like you said, it's in the playbook now. It's a legal play this season. The Eagles run it better than anybody. And Sirianni, he's just going to do what works, and he's going to stick it to other teams. And why not? Jalen Hurts in this game was effective with his legs. You talk about kind of deficiency passing wise, 15 to 24, 130 for 2 touchdowns. But he was sacked twice, but he had a lot of rushing yards, 9 rushes for 62 yards. And they're finding ways to win. So, you know, tough team, very hard schedule. Don't forget they play 11 teams that made the playoffs last season, the toughest in the NFL. But good quality win for them down at Tampa Bay, which has been a house of horrors kind of for them. And we all remember their effort in the playoffs a couple of years ago. But good win for the Eagles. They got Denver coming to town, Philadelphia this week. Big game for them. Tampa Bay is coming to Seattle. In terms of this game, Denver, their defense has been their calling card under Vance Joseph. They lead the NFL with sacks, I believe, with 14 or so. They have, you know, um, they have Cooper, they have Zach Allen. Talk a little bit about this Denver defense and what the Eagles are going to be facing.
Yeah, I think you didn't even mention their best guy, Nick Benito. He's been amazing this year. He leads the league in pressures this year. He's just been amazing for them. Him and Cooper off the edge, they've just been a dynamic duo that teams have had a hard time stopping. And then you look in their secondary, and they have defense player of the year and Pat Surtain. They have I know a lot of people like to pick on Riley Moss, but I think he's done a better job this year. I thought he did a better job on Monday night against, you saw last year when he was just getting picked on the whole game by T. Higgins. I thought he did a better job on T. Higgins. And then they got Halafangu in the back. And I just think they're a complete defense from top to bottom. And I think they're going to give the Eagles fits this week. Pat Surtain is most likely going to shut A.J. Brown down, because that's just what he does. And the Eagles are just going to have to be able to get that running game going. And Denver's defense has been susceptible to better offenses. So, and I would consider the Eagles a better upper tier offense in the league. So it'll be a really good matchup for them.
Yeah, I believe so, and we'll do a deeper dive on that in our preview section. And getting back to the AJ Brown thing, someone texted me. They're like, "Oh, do you think they trade him?" No, no way. The trade deadline is November 4th, and I that's just not the Eagles' mo. Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, they're not going to get rid of one of the best players. Just even if he's complaining a little bit, they're going to probably try to find ways to placate him, like they did early on in the season, giving him a lot more targets. Yeah, unfortunately, he put that tweet out there, but they'll quell it in the locker room, and I think that eventually AJ will be happy. But like you said, receivers are on a receiver. So anything else with AJ Brown, and do you think that where would you put him right now in terms of the receivers? Is he top five?
No. Well, actually, in my own personal rankings, I would say Jamar Chase is the best receiver, and then Justin Jefferson is second. I think Puka has quickly established himself as the third best receiver in the league, and then it would be a toss up from there. It depends what you want. You have CeeDee Lamb, you have AJ Brown, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have Nico Collins. Like there's you have Malik Neighbors before, but he just got injured. It's all about what you prefer. But me personally, I think AJ is the fifth best receiver in the league. So yeah, I would say he's top five.
Yeah, and Nate made a great point in terms of receivers. You got to have a great receiver nowadays in terms of just somebody that can stretch the field and open things up for everybody else. We're seeing what Puka Nakua is doing at this point in the season. I mean, he's just having, offensive player of the year type situation, and a lot of us, Nate and I, play fantasy football. You love to have that good receiver. It's crazy because the strategy when I first started doing fantasy football was, all right, you got to get that running back first. But we started seeing receivers fly off the board early in drafts.
Yeah, I thought ever since the league has kind of switched over to a more pass heavy league, I thought receivers in the first round is more ideal. You know, the wide receivers in the first round this year though haven't really panned out. You look at Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow got hurt, so he hasn't really been producing. Justin Jefferson, he's been okay, I think, but he's been having to deal with Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy through his learning curve. CeeDee Lamb got hurt. Puka Nakua, he's been a great pick, but then Malik Neighbors, he's out for the season. Nico Collins, who I took in the first round, he's been kind of dealing with the Texans' struggling offense, so he hasn't been the greatest. And then Brian Thomas has just been awful this year. So, and those were all the guys really going in the first round this year. So,
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting because you have Egbuka coming in from Ohio State, and he's made an immediate impact. And some people are saying, okay, maybe he's a top five guy, this and that. He had 4 receptions, 101 and a TD versus the Eagles, kind of playing without Mike Evans, and he's starting to be that lead dog. Uh, just talk about the impact of Egbuka and some of these Ohio State receivers coming in. I mean, is Ohio State receiver you now?
yeah, they've been wide receiver you. It's crazy. They have a first round draft pick every year that comes to the NFL, and they're just immediately one of the best receivers in the league. I mean, you can go back now like 8 years, and it seems like every single year there's a Ohio State wide receiver that's getting drafted, and then they make an immediate impact on the team. And Egbuka is one of those guys. He's been awesome for Baker this year in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that if I put my pick in today, he would be offensive rookie of the year. Um, he's just able to separate at an elite level. You can't guard him in man coverage. He's good at picking apart zone defenses. He's just been amazing for them this year.
Yeah, and Egbuka, it's crazy because I was talking with a buddy of mine. I was like, at a certain point, you had Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave, Egbuka, um, JSN. They were all in the same receiver room. I'm probably missing somebody.
Garrett Wilson, Garrett Wilson
Garrett
too.
Wilson too. I mean that's just incredible. I mean, and you talk about that Ohio State receiver room, and a lot of them have shined now in the National Football League. The guy that I took in our fantasy draft, JSN, he's become that dominant number one with DK Metcalf going over to the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, he's a must start each week, and I'm expecting big things from him. Wanted to get Nate's take on a receiver slash athlete or something. Everybody told me, oh, he was once in a lifetime and everything. Well, Travis Hunter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if it's a byproduct of the Jaguars or what's going on here, but he started off a little slow. He's 13 receptions, 118, no touchdowns as a receiver, playing 59% of his snaps. And then on defense, he's playing 39% of his snaps, no interceptions. So Hunter has not made that big impact that everybody thought when he was the second overall pick coming out of Colorado. Is something going on with Hunter, or what are you seeing here?
I think the Jags are doing a bad job misusing him. I thought it was going to be a stretch in the league for him to play both sides of the ball at like a high clip, like 75% on both sides of the ball. But I think, I think for right now in his career, I think he should just learn one side of the ball and be elite at that. And I think it should be corner because you saw him in college and he just jumped off the screen as a corner. I feel like he should be playing every down. I feel like he should be playing every down as a corner, get him comfortable there, and then start bringing him in packages on offense. Maybe like playing like 15 to 20% of the offensive snaps, but he's just a natural born corner. I feel like he has amazing ball skills. And I feel like he should just be more utilized on the defensive side of the ball for right now while he's a rookie and still learning the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of that. I talked to some guys that scouted him, and when he was at Jackson State, and he was just a tremendous corner. I mean, you got to remember he's a 5-star guy, number one corner, probably coming out of high school, and dabbled in receiver, and I saw him take some hits right now for Jacksonville. In terms of these slants, and I don't know if Trevor Lawrence you want to say he's throwing hospital balls, but he may want to switch over to corner and try to get it done there, maybe special team. So yeah, slow start for Travis Hunter. You don't want to kill a young guy this early in the season, so maybe he'll get his opportunities. And we're talking NFL news and notes here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm here with our intern, Nate Vance. So glad everybody can be with us this evening. Nate, we don't do power rankings, but I'm going to give you my top five, and then we can kind of debate whether I missed something. So my top five teams right now, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they've been kind of sloppy. The wins have been okay. They're just getting by wins, but I have them in the number one spot. I have your Buffalo Bills at number two. They're the only an undefeated team out there. Detroit Lions kind of want to bounce back. They're 3-1. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe that they're still in the mix, even though they lost to the Eagles. And then I'll put the LA Rams at number five. So that's my top five. Do you have any comments or any additions?
I think it was a good list, not a perfect A+ list though. I think me personally I would swap out the Chiefs for the Buccaneers at
Oh,
number
wow.
4. But besides that, I think that's a good list.
And in terms of the Chiefs, have they brought it back? I have Patrick Mahomes, and I was real excited about him finally getting some weapons back, and he got Worthy back this week from that shoulder injury, and he really made an immediate impact with that big 35-yard run and had some nice catches. Uh, have the Chiefs turned the corner, and now are they back into contention mode, and should the Bills worry about them?
Yeah, most definitely. The Bills should always be worried about the Chiefs beating them what four times in playoffs now. So
Ah, that hurts. That hurts them to say, everybody.
yeah, most definitely. But the Chiefs look good with Xavier Worthy back. Granted, they did play the worst defense in the NFL right now in the Baltimore Ravens, but I think their offense looked to be back on track. That was Mahomes' first game since 2023, I believe. 2022 actually, that he threw 4 touchdown passes. He played a really good game, and I thought the addition of Xavier Worthy back just gave him an explosive element to the offense. And then they have Rasheed Rice coming back soon as well. So this offense, I think Mahomes is reverting back to that MVP form. I think he wants to show everybody after everybody was doubting him last year after losing to the Eagles, doubting him in the offseason, all this offseason, saying that he was washed and all this, and he's not the best quarterback in the league anymore. I think he wants to show everybody, and he's coming for that MVP, and he wants to win another Super Bowl. So I think they look really good right now.
Yeah, I agree with you that the Chiefs are kind of rounding into shape, and we talk about big game coming up. It's Week 9. They're at Buffalo, and everybody's looking forward to that one to see if the Bills can beat them once again. The thing is, the Bills tend to beat them in the regular season, and as Nate pointed out, in the postseason, really where Patrick Mahomes had their number, and with Rasheed Rice coming back from his suspension, it gives a dynamic to this team, but. Yeah, I wanted to ask Nate about this. Are they going to have to find a running game? I mean, Pacheco has not been running the ball effectively. Their leading rusher is Patrick Mahomes with about 140 yards or so.
Yeah, I think the Pacheco Kareem Hunt thing is just not working out. I don't think they're really very good running backs, both of them. I think Kareem Hunt used to be a good running back, and he's just kind of washed now, and I think I think Pacheco. I think he hasn't looked the same since he broke his fibula last year, and I just think he hasn't been as explosive as he used to be. If I was the Chiefs, I'd go contact the New Orleans Saints, see what it would take to get Alvin Kamara on the team. I think he's on a bad team. He's been on a bad team now for a couple years. He probably wants to win now, so I would I would try and talk to the Saints, see what needs to be done to get him on the team because he would be perfect for Andy Reid's system. Just a guy that can catch and run the ball out of the backfield. And I really do like Brashard Smith. He was a seventh round pick for the Chiefs. He out of SMU. He's more of like a gadget type running back, but he looked really good in the Ravens game. A guy that can just a quick change of pace back to just give them a different look in the offense. So I think they should utilize him more as the weeks go by. And yeah, if I was the Chiefs, I would probably go hit up the Saints and see if I could get Alvin Kamara.
All right, Nate's saying Brett Veach, get on the phone, call down Mickey Loomis, see if you can get this deal done. And the thing is with the Saints as well, Miller played very well last week in terms of spelling um, Kamara, and we talked about the Saints and their struggles. They're building for the future, so yeah, why not see if they can get some draft capital and send Kamara out on a high note. And Andy Reid would just love having him. He had in KC, they had Jamal Charles in the past and a guy who could catch and get on the edge very fast. Kamara was like that when he first came out of the league. Um, but yeah, I do think the Chiefs are starting to build something, and we'll talk about in a few minutes. They are at Jacksonville. That's a Monday night football game, and Jacksonville's got the better record. So we'll see if the KC can go in there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Uh, let's look on the other side of it. The bottom five, the National Football League. The Raiders. Then I have the Carolina Panthers, the Jets, the Titans, and the Saints. Would you change the order on any of that? And I know that the Jets and Carolina have a victory as well as the Raiders, but who's going to have more wins out of this group?
Did you say who's going to have the most wins out of this group?
Yeah, who's going to have the most wins out of this sorry group that I just named?
If I had to guess, I'd probably say the Raiders. I think they got too much talent on offense to keep. And they've been in closer games. Like if you look at all those other teams, the Panthers, they've been terrible. They got that one lucky win against Atlanta because Michael Penix is the most inconsistent quarterback of all time and just had a terrible game. The Jets, Justin Fields is terrible. Spencer Rattler, he's not very good. And the Saints, and then the Titans. You saw what Cam Ward said. He said that they were ass. So um, if I had to guess, probably the Raiders. I would honestly switch the Raiders out. I think the Browns are a little bit worse than
I
the.
was wondering. I was wondering about that. But the thing is with the Browns, the Browns defense is top five. I mean, they can make teams look bad. With Miles Garrett and Ward on the outside, and you saw what they did to the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they set a trap for them. And I fell for it in terms of my survivor pick. Because they won 13-10, and that Browns defense is dangerous. So that's why I left them out of this group. Uh, I included the Raiders because Geno Smith, what's going on with him? Leads the NFL with 7 interceptions. I mean, did he forget his game in Seattle? But what's going on with Geno and the Raiders?
I don't think they have a bottom five O line in the league, and when Geno's under constant pressure, he just doesn't tend to make good decisions with the football. And it's weird that Pete Carroll wanted him back because Geno, he's always been a risk taker. Even when he started getting good in Seattle, he still was near the top of the league in turnovers. And Pete Carroll's an old school coach. He doesn't like turnovers. He wants to run the ball. He wants to play it safe. And it's just weird that he picked Geno Smith to be his quarterback this year. And to be honest, he's just been terrible. He hasn't been getting the ball to his best two guys, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. To be honest, I really think it is a Chip Kelly thing because you saw this type of stuff when Chip was the head coach of the Eagles and the 49ers, and you saw this type of stuff, him not getting his best playmakers the ball and stuff like that. So I don't know why Brock Bowers isn't touching the ball because he's one of the best tight ends in the league, in my opinion, second. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you get no argument out of me. Chip Kelly when I was covering the Eagles was not I'm not a big favorite in the Philadelphia area, and he did a lot of head scratching things, including letting Riley Cooper stay on the team after his mess. He should have cleaned that up, and I was done with old Chipper after that. And he went to Ohio State for a year, and yeah, kind of got back in the NFL ranks. But yeah, the Raiders are underachieving. Um, I was shocked, to be honest with you, that they did not get Shore Sanders sweepstakes in the draft. I thought that would probably be a good landing spot for him, but Pete Carroll has an uphill climb for the Raiders now. What they do have is Max Crosby. I mean, Crosby is just dominant. I mean, he was in the Bears' backfield every play, and they could have probably almost won the game basically because of him, but ended on a late field goal by the Bears. But do you think the Raiders can get in the mix in the AFC West? I mean, they're 1-3. You got the Chiefs at 2-2, and Denver's 2-2.
Yeah, no, they have no shot. They're the worst team easily. They're the worst team easily in that division. So no, they
Yeah,
have no shot.
and we'll see if they're able to, get back to where they were. Everybody talks about the commitment to excellence and all that, but um, I just don't see it in terms of the Raiders. They have a lot to clean up there. They brought in a new GM as well as a new head coach, and they knew it's not going to be turned around in 1 year. We're talking about NFL news and notes, week 4, week 5, here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029, the game, the Coastal Sports Digital Network. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Nate Vance. All right, Nate. There was a first in the NFL, and everybody was so excited about it. They had football in Ireland. I woke up at 9:30 in the morning. I had football on TV. I was so excited. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody knows they have a lot of fans over there in Ireland because of the Rooney family. Steelers get it done, 24-21 in Dublin. They're 3-1 now. The Minnesota Vikings are 2-2. The Steelers are an outright winner in this one. They came in as a 2.5 point underdog, which I couldn't believe, and they get it done. There were a lot of big plays in this game, but the guy I want to spotlight is Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, he was tremendous playing for Warren in this game. 19 rushes, 99 yards, 2 TDs. DK Metcalf did have a very long touchdown, 5 catches, 126, 2 touchdowns. Talk a little bit about the Steelers and are they for real? They're on a bye this week.
Um, I think you're going to always get it's the same thing out of Steelers. They played a backup quarterback in Carson Wentz who isn't very good. They took advantage of that. Mike Tomlin is always going to win those type of games. Uh, it's going to be the same thing with the Steelers when they play these upper level teams with better offenses and stuff like that. They're just not going to be able to keep pace like they always do. They're going to end up being a 6 or a 7 seed like they were last year, and then they're just going to end up getting bounced out of the first round. So
Well, interesting point there that now they lead the AFC North, and the Ravens are just decimated by injuries. They're 1-3. We talked about the Browns not being a contender. Right now, it looks like the Steelers' division. I mean, do you think they can hold serve? And let's face it, the Bengals, they're 2-2, but without Joe Burrow, they're just off.
yeah, yeah, I do want to retract my statement. I do think they do have a shot to win the AFC North title with how the Ravens are beat up right now. I think the Ravens will lose their next 2 games, and then the Ravens will basically most likely have to like win out all because at that point they'd be 1-5. They basically have to run the table and win the rest of their games to go 12-5. So I if I had to put my money on someone right now, I'd probably put it on the Steelers to win. But even if they do win the division, I don't see them winning the
Yeah, and the
playoff.
playoffs is going to be tough, and you saw them last year, and uh, I think they played the Ravens in the first round. They didn't even really show up for the game, and it's just yeah, they get it done. Tomlin is a winner, but in the playoffs, I think he hasn't won a playoff game since like 2013. So the Steelers, nice win for them over there. Aaron Rodgers starting to look a little bit comfortable. He's 41 years old though, but uh, the key for them obviously is T.J. Watt in that defense, and Watt was dominant in this game. 5 tackles, had a sack, had an interception, and that defense is going to keep them in some games. But offensively, It's kind of vanilla. Rodgers not going to throw a lot of passes. He's throwing safe passes. And then Kenneth Gainwell, as I said, ran very well. They have Warren. They'll hit DK Metcalf, and they have two very good tight ends. So the Steelers, good, solid win for them, but we'll see. In talking about that division, and was talking about the Ravens, the Ravens, I can't talk about them without they're a mash unit. They just put Matabike on the IR with a neck injury. Lamar Jackson has a hamstring injury. They're not sure he's going to be able to play this week. Um, they, and they have a big game where Houston's coming to town. You would think it'd be winnable, but with Jackson's out, Stanley's out with a high ankle, Van Noy with a hamstring, Roquan with a hamstring, Humphrey with a calf, and Wiggins with an elbow. I probably missed somebody, but can the Ravens weather the storm of this? They have Houston, they have the Rams, both home games, and then they finally have their bye. Everybody's pointing to if they can get a split and get to the bye, they may have a chance to go 2-4 and then play Chicago week 8.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be hard this week without Lamar Jackson. Texans have one of the best defenses in the league, and it's just going to be tough to move the ball against them with Cooper Rush and at quarterback. So I think that's going to be really tough. And then the week after, I don't see Lamar playing that week either, and they have no shot of beating the Rams without Lamar Jackson the way the Rams have been playing lately. So I need to get this Houston win because if not, then they're just going to have to run the table the rest of the year and not lose a game in order to have a shot to win that division. And the Ravens over the years have been prone to lose to teams that they're not supposed to lose to, and you can maybe expect a loss in that stretch of games. So I really think they need this game at Houston this week. I think it's a winnable game with Cooper Rush because the Texans' offense is just so bad. But they're gonna
Yeah,
have to put stops together.
and it's going to be interesting because you wonder who's left on that defense. Yes, they have Kyle Hamilton, but not much else there, healthy wise. And Houston, they're coming off of they finally got a win. It was over Tennessee though, and I want to focus in on that game for a minute because Cam Ward, he was the number one overall pick. Nate, I mean. It's looking difficult for him. Is it going to get better for Cam Ward? What do you think about him long term?
Yeah, I think he showed a lot of flashes as a quarterback. I just think this team is terrible. I think he lacks weapons. I think Alec Manor is a really good receiver for him, but Calvin Ridley looks washed. Tony Pollard averages like 3 point something yards per carry. He's been terrible. That O line is terrible. The defense has spent a lot of money over the past 2 years, and it just hasn't really been showing up. And I just think that coach is if I had to put my money somewhere for the first head coach to be fired, I have to guess it'll be him. I just think he should have been fired after his first year, after they were that terrible, and they gave him another shot, and he just hasn't been taking advantage of it. And I just really don't think he knows what he's doing out there, and I think he's just been setting Cam Ward up for failure.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just can't see Cam Ward turning the stuff around.
Yeah, and Brian Callahan's the coach that Nate was talking about. Brian Callahan getting testy with the media. I saw in a press conference, he said, "I see what you're trying to do, set me up and this, that." And the reporter just basically asked him, is the team struggling? Not have they quit on you, but what can you do to improve? And he went off on him. So whenever you start seeing that, you're seeing a coach that's frustrated, and it they're getting ready to jump ship. So we'll see what they do there in terms of the Adams family. They own the team, and they got rid of Rand Carthon as their general manager last year and brought in a new GM, and the pressure is on Callahan in his second season. You'd like to give the coach 3 to 4 years to get it done, turn around, but I just don't see it for them. Their offensive line struggling, defensively, not a lot there other than Simmons and Snead. Um, Season just going to get long for Tennessee Titans. And I had one buddy say, "Well, in the suicide pool, why don't we just pick against Tennessee each week? Is that a good strategy?"
It's not my strategy when I'm doing it because eventually they're going to win one game this year that they're not supposed to, and I just wouldn't do that. I would rotate between picking against them, the Jets, the Saints, the Panthers, the
Yeah,
who else?
Yeah, that sounds like an ideal strategy because I kind of agree with you in terms of Tennessee is going to bite somebody. They're going to win at least one game. I remember an awful Miami team years ago. They won on the last game of the season. Uh, they surprised the team. The Browns, even one year, they won a game. And there's only been two teams go 0-16 in NFL history. I still remember that awful Detroit team. You always see Dan Orlovsky talking about how great he was and this and that. Well, he was a quarterback of that team in Detroit, 0-16, and then that Cleveland team that was awful. I think it was Freddie Kitchens that was the coach for them. But even Hugh Jackson, when he was with the Browns, they I think they won like one or two games, even though they were awful teams. So yeah, hard to not win a game in the National Football League, and they're definitely going to bite somebody. But Tennessee, tough times for them. This week they go to Arizona. Um, Arizona, kind of an inconsistent team. Uh, what are we thinking in terms of Arizona? Is it Kyler? Is it the drops by Marvin Harrison Jr.? That defense seems to be getting a little better. What's going on in Arizona?
Yeah, they just don't have elite separators on the outside. I think a lot of their receiver. I think Marv is eventually going to become an elite receiver, but that's just not what he is right now. And they have a lot of receivers on the outside, and Zay Jones and Michael Wilson that do the same things as him. They have no deep threats down the field. They have no separation. So it's just been a lot of checkdowns in this offense. Kyler Murray's the second lowest yards per attempt in the NFL, and I just don't think the offensive coordinator has done a good job utilizing Kyler Murray and his skill set. And it's just been a lot of checkdowns. It's been a boring offense. It's been underwhelming. They don't have a run game anymore. Both their top two running backs and James Conner and Trey Benson are on the IR right now. So, and James Conner's done for the season. So it's just been an underwhelming offense. I think Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, has some things to figure out and get together to find more ways to create big plays in this offense because it's just not working right now.
Yeah, in week four they lost on Thursday night to the Seattle Seahawks, and that was a home loss, and I think Arizona will be in the mix in that division, and they should win over Tennessee this week. That'll probably get them to 3-2. Another prove it game at Indianapolis. Then they have Green Bay in week seven. Then they have their bye at Dallas, at Seattle. So they have a mix of tough games and non-tough games in there. Do you think that Arizona? I thought that they would be a team that could compete for that sixth or seventh spot and possibly sneak into the wild card. Do you think they can? And talk a little bit about your tight end, man, Trey McBride.
Yeah, just them as a playoff team. I predicted them to go to the playoffs. I know Kevin's been ripping me about that, saying that the Cardinals are nothing and Kyler Murray's trash and all that. And right now, I didn't expect Seattle to look this good. I think Seattle's better than them. I hate to admit it, but they look like the worst team in their division right now. So I as of right now, I don't think they're a playoff team. They might be able to get it together. I remember last year they stringed uh, a big win streak during the middle of the season. So I think they'll get a good bounce back game this week against Tennessee, and then they'll just have to build from there. But Trey McBride, he's the best tight end in the league. You get the full package with him. He's a good blocker. He's best receiving tight end in the league. He's been putting up numbers this year, and yeah, I told you, man. I told you about he was better than Brock Bowers, and I told you that he was going to have a better season than Brock Bowers. And you didn't believe me, but so far I'm looking pretty right on that.
Oh, he loves to tell me, "I told you so," everybody, and then he tells his old dad, who's been around the National Football League 20 years or so, "I know more ball than you." Sometimes he's right, but most times I know more. But he was right on McBride. McBride's done very well. I took Brock Bowers, and he's been banged up, and he's just not. He's had a tough season. So McBride looking like that tight end number one around the league, and everybody expecting Travis Kelsey maybe to have that last ride season, but he's looked terrible. And talking about tight ends though, wanted to get your take on Dolphins tight end Darren Waller. Finally got back on the field the other night in their victory. Um, 3 catches on 4 targets, 27 yards, 2 TDs. Can he keep this up?
Yeah, now that Tyreek Hill is hurt, I definitely think he'll be able to keep this up. I think he'll be the second or third option, him and Devon Chain are going to have to step up in the receiving department. And I think uh, the Dolphins are really good at scheming people open. I think Mike McDaniel's going to scheme up a lot of stuff for him because if you remember, John Smith had a really good year last year, and Mike McDaniel was able to get him the ball out. So I think he'll play that John Smith role from last year, and I think he'll end up having a pretty good year.
Yeah, and you have Tua with those intermediate routes that he can throws. He's not a big deep ball thrower, and he'll probably hit Waller on his crossing routes. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. That was the thing early in the season. He's kind of banged up coming out of training camp, but that was a great story. And we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. I know week 4 is kind of over, but we got to talk about game balls and lackeys. I didn't. Hopefully, Nate has selected one. Game ball, I got to give it to LA Rams receiver Puka Nacua. I mean, he was just tremendous in their 27-20 home win in where they beat the formerly undefeated Colts. 13 catches on 15 targets, 170 yards, 1 TD. I mean, this guy is looking like the best tight end. I mean, the best receiver, excuse me, in the National Football League. I mean, he can block. He's doing it all for them. Hopefully, he stays healthy because McVay has him in the mix a lot. But they have Devontae Adams as well, and Stafford's hanging in there with that back injury. So the Rams look like they're a contender, and Nakua is their main guy, so he gets my game call. A special shout out though to Kenneth Gainwell over there in Ireland. He had a big week too.
Yeah, my game ball winner is going to be Drake May. I thought he had a really good game this past week against the Carolina Panthers. He was 14 of 17 for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he added another touchdown on the ground and a big blowout win. They beat them 42-13. They were my survivor pool pick this past week, and I thought he looked really good. I think he looks like the next Josh Allen. So it'll be exciting as a Bills fan, to see uh, a guy that plays like Josh Allen. And I think he's going to be a star. He's a star in the making, and I
Yeah,
just
well,
thought
Sunday Night Football, you're going to get your chance because the Patriots are at the Bills this week on NBC Sunday Night Football. So, yeah, I think Drake May is a great pick, and the Patriots are one of those teams that I thought could be a surprise in the AFC, and you're seeing Vrabel bring that discipline style. They are going to have to figure out turnovers because they did have Stevenson has had some fumbling issues early in the season, but that defense is starting to get some teeth. They got Gonzalez back, and yeah, I think Drake May is a very good pick for your game ball of the week, Lackey. And this is a young guy thing. So when I saw this, I said, "Oh, all the young guys will say, oh, come on, let him have his fun." Well, A.D. Mitchell from the Colts. He's about to score a long touchdown against the Rams, 76-yard catch, and he's running. He switches the ball to kind of celebrate, fumbles it out of the end zone, turning tide of the game, and then he had a big holding penalty on a Jonathan Taylor hold. He held on a touchdown run. So Mitchell, sorry, young guy, he gets my lackey of the week for the Colts. Hopefully, uh, he make amends in the locker room. So what do you think in terms of lackey this week?
Yeah, I thought your Lackey was pretty good. I was going to go with him, but I'm going to pivot to somebody else. He didn't have the worst game in the world, but given the scenario and just everything that's been going on and talk with this guy, I think my Lackey's going to be Lamar Jackson. I
Oh,
think
take that,
I
Braden.
think I think he went 14 out of 20 for 147 yards, a touchdown, an interception, and a fumble. I just think it's weird how this guy doesn't get criticized by everybody, all his defenders, all of his fanboys. That in the biggest spots, numerous times over and over again, that this guy continues to be not clutch and not be able to win these games in the biggest spots of the year. He's only had three in the past 3 years. He's had only 3 games of 2+ turnovers, and they've happened against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, the Bills in the AFC Divisional round last year, and in a gotta have a game this week to drop to 1-3 against the Chiefs. I think he's the James Harden of the NFL, and people need to start calling him out as what he is, a choker.
Yeah, well, he's a regular season king. And I've always said it really only matters in the playoffs. He's 3-5 in the playoffs, and you talk about these big game situations. He's a two-time MVP, and they need him. I know the offensive line is banged up, and Derrick Henry surprisingly has been pretty slow in terms of the start of this season, in terms of fumbling and not having a lot of holes. But yeah, Lamar Jackson, that's a good pick, and I'll throw another one in there. Geno Smith, we talked about him earlier. He had 3 interceptions again this week, and he's just not seeing the field. And you wonder if the Raiders may look to somebody else. I don't even know who's on their roster. Um, and Brian Callahan, you talk about the Tennessee Titans coach who's on a very hot seat, probably the hottest seat in the National Football League, maybe the first to get his pink slip. His team is 2-11 on third downs, 0 for 1 on fourth downs. They only possessed the ball for 21 minutes in this game, and the Titans just are looking like a lost cause. So Callahan definitely gets a low shout out for me in terms of lackey. We got to give it every week. So we'll see if everybody can prove themselves. Let's take a look a little bit at some divisions here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football. Let's talk about the NFC North, Nate. The Lions are now 3-1. They're 0-1 in division. The Packers are 2-1-1. And then you have the Vikings at 2-2, Bears at 2-2. So what are you thinking in terms of division? Who do you think is going to win this division?
Oh man, I think if I had to pick somebody right now, I think the Lions. I think the Lions just look like a little bit of a better team. Through the first 2 weeks, the Packers looked like the best team in the NFL, and then the past 2 weeks they haven't been looking at sharp. Their offense kind of let them down against the Browns, and then their defense let them down in that tie. Dak was going off against them, so and I think the Lions look like a complete team right now. I think that offense is explosive, just as it's been the past couple years. But now that all their guys are back healthy on the defensive side of the ball, I think you're starting to see improvements on that side of the ball. So I think the Lions look like the most complete team right now in that division. So I'd have to say the Lions would be my pick right now.
Yeah, Dan Campbell seems to be having that Lions team hitting all the right notes. Obviously, it's fourth down and bleep it. He don't care. He's going to he's going to go for it, and the Lions are a team that are in the mix. And we can't talk about the Packers 2-1-1 without Nate. There was a stinking tie in the National Football League. I mean, the Packers and the Dallas Cowboys 40-40. I mean, there was no defense in this game. As a purist, I kind of was like, "What's going on out here?" It was a good watch. It was the late game on Sunday night, and I'd been watching all since 9:30, so I may have taken a little nap during this one and woke up to see the score and everything. But what are you thinking in terms of a tie? Should the NFL look at the overtime rules?
Yeah, I don't think it's really that big of a problem for the regular season. I think once you get to these playoff games like they've been doing, someone needs to win, so because someone needs to move on. So I don't really mind a tie in the and during the regular season. I thought it was a really good game overall though, and if they wanted to change it, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal to because we've seen ties before and throughout the past couple seasons and stuff like that. So I really don't think it's the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah, it's just odd, and I always remember covering the Eagles. McNabb didn't know that there was a tie. Angel probably remembers that game. It was in Cincinnati, and there was a tie, and then he got benched as well for Kevin Cobb, and everybody was like, "Oh boy, this may be it for McNabb." And he came back actually that season to lead the Eagles to the NFC Championship game at 9-6-1. So that tie can factor in the standings in terms of division and so forth, and it's just odd though when you look at it. It's like, and you know me, I write everything up each week, and I was like, oh boy, now I gotta follow, two teams that have a tie, and I think that of those two teams, I think Green Bay will get their stuff together on a bye this week, and they'll kind of clean things up. The Dallas Cowboys, they're a train wreck. I know Kevin's somewhere smiling because you know how much he hates the Cowboys. Uh, they can't stop anybody defensively. I mean, that defense is terrible. They've had some injuries on that defense as well. Can the Cowboys turn this thing around, Nate?
Yeah, I think that offense is explosive enough. They remind me of the Cowboy or the Cincinnati Bengals from last year. It's all offense, no defense. Dak is playing at a elite level right now. So I think they do have a shot, but not like a high percentage shot. So I mean, I think we'll have to see who's better, them or the Commanders, and they'll be fighting for I think that last 7 seed spot. So
Yeah, and the big thing with Dallas is they need to get CeeDee Lamb back, and they have no one to blame for themselves. I couldn't believe when they ran him out of the backfield as a true halfback, handed the ball to him, and he got hit and he gets a high ankle. So it's just like, what are you doing out there? So, yeah, Dallas. We'll see if they're able to stay in the mix in the division. They're at the Jets this week. Big game. It's a big game for them. They need to get it done, and the Jets have Justin Fields, who played pretty well the other night. Then they're at Carolina, Washington, at Denver, Arizona, and then they have their bye. So Dallas, we'll see if they're able to keep this thing going. But much like Nate said, they're all offense, and that defense isn't stopping anybody. Speaking of Cincinnati Bengals, um, are they going to be able to survive Browning being their quarterback? I mean, he looks terrible. They to me right now, they look like a team that's not going to win many games without Joe Burrow. I mean, what are they going to do in terms of Browning?
yeah, I don't think they'll win very many games with Jake Browning. He hasn't looked how he looked last year. I will give him a little bit of grace though because he's went up against two elite defenses the past 2 weeks in the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos. But like this week they play Detroit. They're going to lose that game. Then they play Green Bay. They're going to lose that game too. And then like their schedule gets a little bit lighter after that. They play Pittsburgh, the Jets, the Bears, the Steelers again, the Patriots, and a couple other teams. But I think they should make a move for either call up the New York Giants, get either Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson. But we know how cheap that owner is, so he probably doesn't want to pay extra money. So they'll probably just gonna have to ride it out with Browning and see what he can do for them.
Yeah, and Browning, he's a total backup, and Cincinnati, it's not going to get any easier for them. Um, they have Detroit this week. I think Detroit is going to put a number on them. Then they're at Green Bay. They have Pittsburgh in a big rivalry game. Then the Jets, Chicago, and then they're bye in Week 10. So they're saying Burrow has a shot to come back in December. I'm not sure about that. So we'll see what's going on there. We're here on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. We're coming down the stretch. As everybody knows, last portion of the show, we typically look at the upcoming games around the National Football League. So Nate and I will take a look at these. All right, Thursday night football. It's tomorrow night. You got the Niners 3-1. They just said Mac Jones will be back starting again for them. They are at the Rams. The Niners are not as beat up as the Ravens, but they have a lot of injuries as well. They do still have Fred Warner in the middle of that defense. But I'm leaning towards the Rams in this one. We talked about Puka Nacua, how well he's playing, and the defense with Jared Verse and the guy. So I'll go with the Rams in a closer than expected win.
Yeah, I just actually changed my survivor pool pick from the Colts because I just don't trust Daniel Jones to the Rams tonight to tomorrow night. I think that all the injuries the Niners have, Ricky Pearsall is going to be out, Juwan Jennings is going to be out. You already mentioned it, but Mac Jones is going to be starting for Brock Purdy. I think all the offense is just going to be depleted. It's going to be a lot of check downs to Christian McCaffrey, not being able to move the chains consistently. And I just think the Rams look like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, and they're at home, so I'm going to have to go with the Rams.
Yeah, and in terms of fantasy, I know Matthew Stafford's on a lot of waiver wires out there. He may be somebody that people want to grab. Kyron Williams is explosive in terms of running back position, but he's got to watch his fumble. So I expect the Rams to put up some points in this one and walk away to win. Early game, another one, and first before we talk about the game, how do you feel about these early games on Sundays? Do you like them? Not like them?
Oh, I love them. Being on the East Coast at 9:30, you wake up and football is just on right early in the morning. I know it's probably annoying for West Coast people. It's on at 6:30, so they're probably not catching the game. They're probably sleeping through it and stuff like that. But if you're on the East Coast, there's nothing better than just waking up at 9:30 in the morning and just being able to watch football. So I personally like it. I know some people don't like it, but I like it.
Yeah, my good friend Byron, who's out in California, he always tells me, he said, "Oh, typically on uh, in Cali, we're watching games at 10 o'clock in the morning, so we're used to this." So yeah, but it is fun, and it gives you more viewing options, but it does make for a long day. I know my wife's always like, "All right, another game," but I love it. I love it. And so we got the Minnesota Vikings 2-2. Their starters Carson Wentz. That's Kevin and Angels, buddy. They love Carson Wentz. He's starting, and they're facing the Cleveland Browns, who are starting Dylan Gabriel. Do you want to give that take on that in terms of Dylan Gabriel first, Nate? He's starting in front of Joe Flacco. Should it be Shador? What's going to happen with the Browns in this starting situation?
It's terrible what they're doing to my guy Shador out there. He should easily be the starter over Dylan Gabriel. I mean, he won the quarterback award in college as the best quarterback, and the fact that Dylan Gabriel is starting over him, I think, is kind of weird. I think the NFL is doing it to him. I think there's a lot of politics behind it. They don't like him. They don't like his dad, so he's just not going to play. So I think he's. I think eventually the owner's just going to tell him, look, put Shador in. We're not a good team, and we might as well get views and have people talking about us. So put in Shador Sanders. But I, if I had to pick a winner in this, I'll go with the Vikings. I don't think it's. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think it's going to be a great game, but I just think Carson Wentz is a little bit better than Dylan Gabriel. So I'm going to roll with the Vikings.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because you have two very good defenses in this one. Brian Flores' defense for the Vikings has had some teeth, and we talked about the Browns earlier and how well they've been doing despite their struggles offensively. I also am leaning towards the Vikings in this one, despite Carson Wentz starting. He threw two interceptions, and there was a couple times he could have threw a third against the Steelers. So he scares the mess out of you. But I think the Vikings will find a way with Mason, Justin Jefferson to do just enough, and Isaiah Rodgers is playing very well defensively. I mean, the Eagles probably should have re-signed Isaiah Rodgers. He had two picks a couple weeks ago. He's just flying around the field. So maybe he makes a big play. And Dylan Gabriel, like Nate was saying, you know what you're getting with him. The guy he does not have a big arm. Don't expect 20-yard throw or more throws. So Judy and them, it's going to be crossing routes with Njuko, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think it'd be the Vikings in a very close game. That one's in Tottenham, England, 9:30 NFL Network. So we'll see on that one. We gave a little preview of this other game earlier. The New York Giants, 1-3. They're at the Saints. This isn't a toilet bowl, but there's something excited about. Jackson Dart, if he's healthy, will get his second start in the National Football League in this one. The Saints are trying to work through some things with Spencer Rattler, and Kellen Moore is trying to insert his program in the first season. But what are you saying in terms of the Giants versus the Saints?
Yeah, I think I would take the Giants in a narrow victory. I think it's going to be a sloppy, ugly game between two bad teams. But if I had to pick somebody, I'd definitely pick the Giants. I think they're elite on one side of the ball, whereas the Saints just really don't have any elite players. So I think the Giants are going to take the game on the road.
Yeah, and there's another one where you say, maybe it could be a survivor pool, but you're going to live on the edge. You pick the Giants in this one. They do have Dexter Lawrence, who had an interception last week, and Burns is really coming off the edge for them. Abdul Carter is a rookie to get excited about. So the Giants do have some pieces. I think they'll do just enough. Rattler just enough to win over the Saints. Um, this is a big game. A lot of my listeners and people are looking forward to the Philadelphia Eagles. They are hosting the Denver Broncos, who are 2-2. The Eagles are 4-0, but they've been winning on special teams in a variety of ways. Is this where when the luck runs out and Knicks and the Broncos put one on the Eagles?
Yeah, no, the Eagles are going to win this game. Bo Nix has been turning the ball over too much. I think the Eagles will be able to scheme up against the Broncos defense. And like I said, I just think Bo Nix has been making too many mistakes for my likings. I think the Eagles are one of the best defenses in the league, and they're going to be able to turn him over a lot and put the Eagles in just good situations to win the football game. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in this game.
Yeah, I also picked the Eagles in this one, and I want to see this matchup of Surtain the second versus AJ Brown. We know how unhappy he is, and it's just going to be a good battle between the two of them. The team that can run the ball more effectively is going to win this one. I think that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley, they got to get him going. He has not had a lot of yards per carry recently. Next game, and this is a do or die game. Uh, the Houston Texans 1-3. C.J. Stroud, they seem to get a little right against the Titans, but they've just had something to miss for quite some time now. You got the Texans traveling to the very beat up Baltimore Ravens. Early on in the week, I highlighted and I said, all right, it's going to be the Ravens. But with Lamar Jackson not playing, I'll stick with the Ravens, but it may be an ugly one. This may be like a 9-7 victory for the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Texans. I think Cooper Rush is not an NFL starting quarterback. I think the Texans are going to turn him over a lot. They're going to have to play through Derrick Henry, but I think the Texans defense is good enough to be able to contain him and all the other playmakers around him. And then I think Nico Collins is going to have a field day against that injured Baltimore secondary. I think CJ Stroud's going to be able to do enough to get the win for them. So I'm going with the Texans.
All right. Yeah. All right. We disagree on that. Well, we'll see what happens. Let's go to some more marquee games as we close it out. Tampa Bay Bucks 3-1 there at the Seattle Seahawks, and it's been good Sam Darnold lately. And they found a mix between Charbonnet and Walker. I have Walker. I want them to hand the ball to Walker, but they seem to have a good mix with Seattle. Their defense is playing better, but Rick Woolen has kind of struggled for them. Last week we talked about the Bucks losing to the Eagles, but Baker's been playing at such a high level. He has Mbuka, and they know they got Godwin back last week. They're still working him in the mix. Bucky Irvin's a little banged up in this one, but I think the Bucks are going to find a way to win. You may see Antoine Winfield Jr. get a pick or something by their defense to kind of turn this thing around. I don't see the Bucks losing two in a row, so I'll go with them in a close victory.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the home team. I got the Seahawks. I think their defense is one of the best in the league. Uh, they have a lot of guys on that side of the ball, and then Sam Darnold's been playing efficient, elite football on that side of the ball. I think they have a good tandem of running backs, like you were saying, and Bucky Irving or not Bucky, Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker, and I think I think with JSN, I think the Tampa corners are susceptible, and I think JSN's going to have a field day out there. So I'm going to roll with the Seahawks.
All right. And the last game we'll look at, and I know your answer, but this is Nate's team's game. The New England Patriots 2-2. They're at the Buffalo Bills. This is a AFC East tilt on Sunday Night Football, NBC 820. Um, I think Buffalo will have enough. I think Sean McDermott will try to confuse Drake May, and Cook has been running extremely well lately, and their defense is kind of coming around. So I'll go with the Bills in this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills too. We've had the Patriots number the past couple years. I think it's just going to stay that way. I think we just all around have a better team than them. So, uh, yeah, give me the Bills in this game.
Yeah, and expect Josh Allen to put on his Superman cape on national TV. And another great week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football. Don't forget, everybody, there are buys this week. For your fantasy football. Atlanta Falcons, the Bears, the Packers, and the Steelers are off. So make sure when setting your lineups, you keep that in mind. But another great week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football. Great job by Angel behind the glass. Nate, great job coming in, pinch hitting for Kevin. And we will see you next week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coastal Sports Digital Network.